Yaffee program on WVNN.
Welcome to the second hour of the Yaffee program here on News Talk 770 AM 92.5 FM WVNN. I want to remind you, if you missed any of the show live, the podcast will be up on the website, WVNN.com. You can also get it at the WVNN app. Yes, we have our own app. Or anywhere you get your podcasts like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of that stuff. So check it out. Check it out there. I want to give you a headline here real quick from Fox News. It says U.S. official disputes Iran's claims. It says regime has agreed to robust inspections of nuclear sites. So a U.S. official told Fox News on Tuesday that Iran has agreed to robust inspections of their nuclear sites, disputing claims from Iran's foreign ministry that no visits are scheduled yet for a United Nations watchdog agency. So once again, we're at this back and forth where Iran says something different behind the scenes than they're saying to the public, and it creates confusion. Got to talk more about this right now with Andrew Harding. He is an expert with the Heritage Foundation when it comes to foreign policy, national security. Andrew, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing well. About yourself?
Doing good. But the question really is, how are these negotiations doing? It seems like it's been a lot of up and down recently.
Yeah, I think so far with Vice President Vance now coming back from Switzerland, I think we've seen overall some good progress. And I think there are three key areas in which we've seen. And again, this is all initial. This is the start of the MOU. There's a long way to go to get to a full deal. But what the Vice President announced is first on the nuclear issue and Iran's nuclear program, Iran has agreed to re-allow inspectors from the International Atomic Energy Agency to re-inspect nuclear sites. I think we'll get a better sense of the technical details of what they can do and the specific scope and U.S. involvement in the coming weeks. But that is a good start to ensure that there is verification of Iran's actions on its nuclear program. Second, on the Strait of Hormuz, we've seen an increase in traffic going from just a handful of vessels now to multiple dozen that are crossing through the strait. But there will also be further questions about how and what safeguards to be put in place to ensure that there's a continued free flowing of commerce here, but some good initial progress. And then finally, the Vice President announced that there is mechanisms being put in place to provide a greater sense of stability for regional conflicts, say about with Lebanon, the Houthis down in Yemen, any Iranian proxies in Iraq, a broad focus on trying to ensure that if a conflict spikes up, thinking of ways to, rather than respond to use military strikes, see if there's a way for diplomacy to nip these issues in the bud. So we've seen some progress there, but at the end of the day, this all comes down to compliance. This will not be solved in just 1 or 2 days. There's a lot that needs to be done, and to ensure Iran fully follows through in anything it commits to.
Well, yeah, and that really is kind of the sticking point here. How do we get them to comply? If it's not through military force, what can be done here?
Well, I think the three key domains. First, and I will mention the military component, I think that's been something very different, what we've seen with this deal, of course, than, say, the JCPOA or in prior handlings of the Iranian regime, in which President Trump has been willing to use American military might to enforce American objectives. So rather than hope Iran comes to the table, the president's been willing to degrade their military, degrade their industrial base, ensuring that there's been a conventional cost that Iran has to suffer. They are going to spend years and years trying to rebuild elements of their industrial base that have been degraded through Operation Epic Fury. That's something that, regardless of any negotiation, Iran has already had to accept some costs. So this, as a result, this threat, and the president shown it can be credible, can always be used over their head that if they're going to not comply with the agreement, well, the president is very happy to have U.S. forces reengage. On the economic front, any type of asset that Iran may want to get here through treasury or otherwise, it's all based off of complying with the deal. And even if there's, say, a general waiver that's been issued, well, the Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, can easily revert that if it's clear Iran is not following through on its terms here. So what Iran wants economically also comes down to its consistent compliance, and we can turn off that tap if needed. And diplomatically, the president, the Secretary of State specifically, is traveling to the region this week. We'll be meeting with Gulf partners in order to ensure there's full understanding and alignment on what the MOU should look like and how the U.S. can incorporate that and ensure that Iran understands that Gulf countries want to see this succeed, putting pressure on Iran to come to the table. Otherwise, they could risk some diplomatic fallouts with its regional partners. So those are some levers that the administration has and are employing in order to make sure Iran is able to comply.
Speaking with Andrew Harding, he is with the Heritage Foundation, joining us on the show today. So there's been a lot of talk when it comes to billions of dollars going to Iran and a lot of confusion on exactly what that looks like. Are we just releasing sanctions? Are other countries in the region giving it to them? How do we make sure it's spent on the right things? And when are those sanctions actually going to be released? I mean, have we got a firm answer on any of this yet? I mean, J.D. Vance and President Trump suggested we could release funds, but they would have to use it to buy maybe farm products from the U.S. What does that look like? Do we even know yet?
Right. That's probably some of the more specific details we have at this point, which goes to the point of how this is still a long process. We're just a couple of days in. People should not view this MOU as the end-all, be-all. The MOU does is ensures that both sides, the United States and Iran, have jointly agreed upon outcomes that they hope to achieve. And through the next 2 months, the 60 days that have been negotiated through this MOU, allow some of these technical details to come into play. That includes how, say, if any assets are unfrozen here, and the vice president said himself, it's an if they are done. The president of the United States wants to ensure that this money or any assets are not going to go to terrorist proxies, are not going to go to Iran, just restocking its military and going back to where we were at square one. I think there's an understanding of that. And so what we look like, that's why the president mentions here that there could be ways for any assets to be unfrozen. Well, it's going to be used to purchase American agricultural goods, ensuring that, say, very narrowly, it's going to benefit American farmers and help also address some of the economic pains that have been felt through this conflict, but more broadly gets to the point that the administration wants compliance. They want to be able to verify and have eyes and ears over what Iran is doing with any of these assets. So I think we'll get more details, but the other thing the president said as well, in addition to other details, is that there will not be U.S. tax dollars spent on this. Rather, say this large $300 billion reconstruction fund, there's an interest in the private sector looking more at regional partners to, therefore, A, give them a vested interest in this deal succeeding, but B, have Iran have an interest to have a sense of stability so it doesn't spook off private investment when it could really use it to get their economy that's teetering on the brink of hyperinflation to get back to a better place. So I think there's a lot of components here that, if it goes right, again, that can be an if, but if it does and this team continues to negotiate, we could see some of these details come out that ensures that this money, whatever may be released, doesn't go into the hands of any militant that want to bring more harm to the United States.
Andrew Harding is with the Heritage Foundation. Moving beyond Iran to other international news, do you have any comments on Keir Starmer resigning as the UK Prime Minister? I mean, I guess it was somewhat expected, but I don't know if you've looked into that at all. I'm not an expert when it comes to British politics. I know, kind of just the bare minimum, but any thoughts on that?
Well, I think you're right. I think this has been largely expected for some time. And I think as the president made clear that there are many issues in which he was not overly supportive, say, for what the United States would be hoping to see. We can certainly think about in the context of Operation Epic Fury, the United Kingdom was slow initially to provide the U.S. access to, say, a military base in Diego Garcia, which is down south beyond India, that could be used, or around the Maldives as well, for the U.S. to launch missiles or conduct operations over Iran. That was initially put on hold. And so eventually the United Kingdom came around. But when you're thinking about a core NATO ally and U.S. ally here, to know that we've had these types of issues on supporting a security interest of preventing Iran from getting a nuclear weapon that the United Kingdom also shares an interest in seeing happen, the fact that we saw a delay there showed some real issues there about the U.S.-UK security relationship in this regard. So I think a lot of this, of course, like with many things, comes down to domestic politics, certainly large concerns and attention on migration, mass migration issues in the United Kingdom, concern over how the government's handled there. But I think the president has made clear there were some broader issues that I know, wasn't happy about. And we'll have to see who the next prime minister is and see if there's any potential breakthrough that could help provide a better outlook for what U.S.-UK relations can look like.
Okay, yeah, we'll have to see there because I guess the person who's going to take over was actually not elected. There are some calling for a snap election. I'm not sure that's going to happen. So we'll have to see what the transition looks like. Final question I wanted to ask you, other international news, the latest in the Ukraine war. I mean, Ukraine has made some real gains. They have had bombings in Moscow. I mean, they attacked, I believe it was some kind of gas refinery, oil refinery over there. They've been using drones, been pretty successful. I mean, is this war actually going to come to an end anytime soon? I mean, Putin seems still pretty resilient despite the setback.
Well, I think assuming the Iran negotiations move in a good direction, I think this does provide President Trump with a little more time to focus more on ending this conflict in Ukraine. Certainly not easy by any means. Of course, we are in I think the fourth year of this conflict, if I'm recalling correctly. And you're right. There seems to be an interest from Vladimir Putin to keep pressure. But as the president's made clear, he's willing to support Ukraine. And I think that's the right approach to take where it's going to benefit American interests. That's looking at making sure that Ukraine has a strong industrial base. And to your point on drones, a lot of this is Ukraine producing itself. This is where, rather than the United States giving aid, we've encouraged and worked with the Ukrainians for them to develop the domestic capacity and which they're able to defend their sovereignty, able to push back. And like you're seeing here, some of these massive videos of large explosions, not only in Russian energy, but also semiconductors and technology hubs that the Russians use for military components. We're seeing Ukrainian drones get deep into the heart of Russia and conduct this damage. That is Ukrainian success. And I think is an example of how there are ways we can support Ukraine in its defense and go on offense in this regard. But also, the president will be able to really pay attention, work with the G7 countries on a shared interest of ending this conflict. So I think as long as Ukraine continues to show that it's going to work in good faith, come to the table, it makes Russia look like the bad player here. Well, it certainly is the bad player, but more so in any diplomatic context in which it's not going to come to the table in good faith. So the president will have some more time here. And I certainly do hope we can get to an end of the conflict here. And if there's any president that's going to push for it, I think President Trump and his team will really want to get at it.
Andrew Harding, he is with the Heritage Foundation. You can read all this stuff and more at heritage.org. Andrew, really appreciate you coming on as always. I know we'll talk to you again in the future.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
All right. When we get back, I want to get your thoughts when it comes to, yes, the reflecting pool. Apparently everyone's talking about it. That's the big story. Problems in the reflecting pool. What happens next? Trump is arresting people, vandalizing it, which, I mean, he should. So we'll get to that and much more next year on the Yaffee program. Stay with us.
It's the Yaffee program on WVNN. Square up.
Yo, what's going on, man? It's Andre Berto, two-time world champion. Today's guest, NFL legend, media mogul. Shaq.
What's up?
Ocho Cinco.
What's good, baby?
We call them gym fighters. Yeah. These guys that be in the gym, they can probably beat the hell out of any world champion you can think of.
Yeah.
When that bell ring,
Yeah.
and them lights on, you got 10, 15,000 watching.
When I stepped in that ring, I think boxing is becoming great again.
Square up.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Let's go.
One Night with Steiny.
One Night with Steiny. Shout out, full send now.
Hey, bro, what's your name, bro?
Steiny, what the hell? We've been sitting here for like an hour together.
I don't know your name. What's your name, bro?
Steiny. I can't guarantee anything. All I can guarantee is that you're going to be entertained. I'm a professional. I'm here to interview.
So the whole interview, you didn't ask me what I like better, Burger King or McDonald's.
All right, and we are going to wrap up on that note. Thank you, Steve, so much. That was amazing.
Burger King.
One Night with Steiny. One Night with Steiny, baby. Let's go.
One Night with Steiny. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.